not using that money to fund our own development. The first thing we need to do, and we have agreed with Africa Development Bank, we have agreed with Afri-Exim, we have agreed with Trade Development Bank, Africa Finance Corporation, that before we go and look for money from other people, we must structure our own DFIs to unlock these $4 trillion of our own resources to finance our development. So, we will not allow ourselves to be exploited again, because we know what we must do. And what we are saying is, we don't want to also blame others for our own mistakes. President Kagame told us today that nobody owes us development. We owe it to our own selves. So we mustn't look for favors where we can do it ourselves. Secondly, Aliko Dangote told us today that our own private sector in this continent must first and foremost invest in our continent before we go looking for other investors from elsewhere. Yeah. The question people ask, if our own private sector does not have the confidence to invest in our continent, why would private sector from elsewhere have the confidence? Yeah. If we are not ready to mobilize our own resources here in Africa, resources that are available to us in pension funds, in insurance companies, why would anybody else use their savings to finance our own development? So first things first, we must take the lead as Africans, as policymakers, as private sector leaders in taking charge of our own development. Any other support we get from friends like Macron and other people will be secondary. To answer your question, we will not allow ourselves again to be slaves of anybody. We are going to take charge of our own future. Number two, somebody has asked tangible progress. What tangible progress have we achieved here? And how are we going to approach the G7? Let me say the following, that we have agreed on three fundamental things. We've agreed, number one, is we must develop an innovative mechanism of raising resources at scale, at speed, for our own development, and it starts with us. All we will be asking at the G7, in fact, we will not be asking for money from the G7. What are we asking from the G7? We are asking them to put in call-up capital. We are asking them to put in guarantee, not money. We will use our own institutions to mobilize resources to undertake our own infrastructure development. That's what we'll be going to the G7 to do. Simple. You know, in the past, we've been going to ask for aid and loans and things and more. We are saying there are things we can do by ourselves. Number two, we will be having a conversation as an outcome of this meeting on our human capital dividend. Our young people, the people of this continent, are the greatest asset that we have. They will form the workforce of the future, they will form the market of the future, and they will drive innovation, creativity, artificial intelligence, and technology. So we have one of the biggest assets. What we have agreed is, how do we make that, how do we build the capacity for that asset? Through education, through training, making sure they have access to the internet, making sure that they have access to technology. The rest, the young people of this continent can do it for us and for the globe. And finally, we have agreed on energy transition. That energy transition is not just going to be about energy. It's going to be both transition in development and transition in transformation itself. So energy being, because I have said in my closing statement, there is no region, no country that can industrialize in the dark. We need energy. So these are the three most important things that I see as a take-home from this conference. And I'm very, very proud of the outcome of this conference. And I want to thank my brother, Macron, for being here with us, using his network to work with us. And we came here as heads of state because we know that first and foremost, it is our responsibility as heads of state in this government to take charge of our own development. My good brother is here as a friend, and we can only leverage on his friendship to be able to get to others so that we can fashion one trajectory for development together. Mr. President.
Merci, Président.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Really important to have a representative of the African continent there at the G7 when we're talking about international crises to solve, because Africa suffers from these crises as much as anyone else, and too often Africa is left out of these international discussions. Africa has been the most severely struck by the consequence of the war of aggression by Russia against Ukraine because of the cereal and fertilizer imports that have been affected. This caused enormous problems, as well as, and we saw this with the 2022 farm project, and now we're looking into other modalities. And what we see happening with the Strait of Hormuz right now, we see again the primary victims are here in Africa. We heard this from the captains of industry today. We heard it from other stakeholders. The price at the pump and the increase in the price of the barrel have major impacts. And in the terms of the food supply chain, it is, remember, a third of the ships arriving with imports to Africa come through the Strait of Hormuz. And so once again, this is a moral and political failing not to have that representation of the African continent in the G7. And so when we talk about those major global crises, we're going to have to talk about the consequences on the African continent. So that's the first issue. Now, the second one about the issue of financial architecture and the need for guarantees, which is what I would call a native issue to the G7. And I discussed this with President Ruto. We want to give a clear message, and that is to calibrate the global imbalance in this regard. The heart of the G7's economic environment, the world in which we are working, is focused on very problematic macroeconomic issues, overcapacity from China, issues from the USA, European perspectives, and not enough of this gets discussed with Africa's place on the whole value chain, agriculture, industry, you name it. If developed economies do not adhere to that agenda, and that's the first thing, we've got to get them to respect the rules. Secondly, then how would we even be able to hope to